Hi everybody. Hopefully this time I have sound. I do believe I do this time. I'm just going to double check before we get started here. So give me just a minute. Hi everybody. Yep, all right, I have sound. Fantastic. Okay, we can actually get started with this now. So there was a very unsuccessful attempt at this on Wednesday due to some fun problems with a version of OBS I was running, but I think I fixed it. So now we can go on to this mystery module that I've been hinting at for more than a week. And I did say that it was something that I didn't think that I was ever going to do. So let's just give you a little flash and see if you can see what it is. Really briefly. Did you catch that? Did you catch that? Okay, I won't tease you any longer. What I got was a NerdSEQ, and I had said that I would never replace my vector sequencer. And I just want to make sure I assure you that no, I'm not replacing my vector sequencer. It's nice and in a box. This is more of a demo. I wanted to see, because I had seen some very interesting usages of NerdSEQ and seen how powerful it was, and I really wanted to try it and see if it made any difference to my workflow at all. And if I like it, great, I'll sell the vector. If I don't like it, oh well, I'll sell this, still regain most of my money. So worth it as far as I'm concerned. But as you can see, I haven't even taken the protective little label on the screen off yet. I have specifically waited for you all to actually do anything with this, because I wanted this to be a sort of first impressions thing. I have read the manual in as much as I can. The manual is very verbose. This is a very, very in-depth, very complex sequencer that can do a lot. But I haven't really played around with it yet, so I figured this would be a good play around and see how it sort of works on initial contact, so to speak. So the first thing is, you know, the part that everyone loves to see. You gotta have the peeling of the screen, right? Oh, yep, that's really good. There we go. One of us. Yeah, it's still on after, well, too late for me. Screen protector's gone now. Yeah, I was lucky enough to get it all in this nice color scheme too. I didn't really like the ones that had the sort of like, I don't know, the big NerdSEQ thing up here. I like this one. It's kind of more subtle, and it works with the rest of my modules that are all black and silver. So, okay, so the only other thing that I have it hooked up to, you might see here, is I've just got clock and reset out going into PAMs, and that's just multed out to TET over here. I probably won't end up using it in this time around. But in my streams later this weekend, where I start doing a whole EP live, then we'll see. I might end up using that. But yeah, so what is NerdSEQ? For any of those of you that don't know, it's a quite unique sequencer in that it's tracker based. The clavis, yeah. If you haven't used a tracker before, basically it means that, let's see what these keys feel like. Oh, they're nice. It means that the sequencer runs from top to bottom rather than like left to right like you usually see on a sequencer. So you can get a lot of information on a single page or multiple pages horizontally all at once, which I thought was kind of a unique way of looking at it. The big difference, and the thing that I'm wondering whether I'm going to be okay with or not, is that it doesn't, as compared to the vector sequencer, it doesn't really have that generation function that the vector sequencer has. So I can't kind of like pick a key and have it randomly generate something in that key in like a couple button presses like the vector does. You kind of do have to program this thing to some degree, at least as I understand from the manual. So whether that will be a good thing or not, I don't know. There is an equivalent amount of randomization for sure, so that's good at least. But did not expect that. Good, Jazura. That's what I was hoping to. That was the impact I was hoping to have. So there's a couple of other new modules, by the way, that I have that I'm not necessarily going to show today. that are going to come into my streams later on this weekend. It's actually 2 of the same module, just to give you a hint. So you'll see those starting tomorrow. So let's get into this. It's a very interesting setup with these expanders that it has over here. It has a CV expander and a trigger expander. And all these expanders have to get assigned to tracks. There's a maximum of 8 tracks that you can actually have on NerdSEQ, and 2 of those tracks are actually dedicated to a sampler, which is kind of cool. This thing has a sampler built into it. It's, you know, you can't play 30-minute long samples like you can the Oscillator, but it's still kind of neat. So I figured maybe we'd start with the samples, just because then I don't have to hook up an envelope or all this kind of stuff, and I can just see how the sort of sequencer plays out. So those are on tracks 7 and 8. So right now we're on the sequencer screen, which is kind of like, think of it like the clip view in Ableton. Like each one of these boxes is a clip, and as far as I understand anyway, and you can launch clips, or you can launch entire rows at once, or things like that. And clips that are next to each other will automatically loop and things like that. So that's the sequencer page. You can see, by the way, the difference between the tracks. That's a modular track, and now I'm on track 7. It's a sample track. So if you hit OK on here, it's supposed to create a new pattern, which it did. Cool. Everything is in hexadecimal, by the way, in terms of numbers on the NerdSEQ, which is great for me being a developer. I know hexadecimal, so it's not like a giant leap, but it could be tough for people, I think. Yeah, this is yeah, exactly. The Clavis panel option, yeah. It's the newest one as far as I understand, so it's pretty cool. And to be honest, not only was it the one that I wanted, but it was also the only one I could find in stock, so. And yeah, the time is good. Yeah, I'm glad that I can get this done on the weekend. It's a long weekend here in Canada, so that's helpful for this kind of thing. Okay, so we got a pattern, and now we can go into the pattern, and now this is where I think it's kind of cool to have a tracker-based thing, because not only do you have the note that you can set and the patch, which maybe we'll get into, I don't fully understand, but then like for the sample you can also set the volume, and then there's effect slots, and you can see them all in one row basically, which is an interesting difference I think from the vector sequencer, because like you kind of, when you're looking at the vector sequencer, you see specific like pages at once. So you can see what the note is, or you can see how many times it's retriggering, or you can see what the randomness is that's applied to that step. But in this case, you don't have to actually go between different pages to see that. It's kind of all there at once in a much more abridged and maybe harder to understand format, but it's all there. I bought it from, crap, which one is it? It was either Signal Sounds or Elevator Sounds in the UK. I can't remember which one. One of those two. Okay, so let's make this have a sample. Let's make this do something with a sample. Let's start with just some notes. So you navigate obviously using these arrow keys, but then you set things with holding Shift and then giving it a note. So let's, I don't know, 0, 2, 4, 6, and then maybe we'll make it repeat on 8, I don't know. So the other interesting thing about this is, being that it's a tracker-based sequencer, you have a maximum of 64 steps that you can use. But if you want to make something that's less than 64 steps, you don't just like set the number of steps, as far as I understand. You actually have to use an effect slot, of which on samples there's 2 different effect slots. And by the way, if you look on the bottom, it tells you kind of what you're at, and it'll show you which effect you're using. But you have to use an effect to make it loop or go back to the beginning again. So when you're changing things, you can use Shift left and right to do like small increments, and Shift up and down to do large increments. So in this case, we want large increments. This break/jump thing goes back to, I believe, the very beginning, so 0, 0, 0, 0. So let's just hook this up into something that can have sound. One is in Scotland, one is in Bristol. Yeah, one is in Scotland, one is in Bristol. I'm pretty sure it's the one in Bristol that I got this from, actually, come to think of it. Okay, so let's go out of the sample, and I'm just going directly into the mixer, so it shouldn't be anything major. The other thing we have to do is actually attach a sample to this. There's a whole bunch of sample slots that you can load in, and you can of course, like similar, or not of course, but you can similar to the Octatrack or things like that, change samples per step, I believe. And I think that you can play up to 2 samples at once from one output, which is cool. So in order to do that, I believe you go Shift and then Automate, which is the Nerd menu. Is that it? No, that's not it. That's not it. There's a way of doing this. Shift Setup. Oh, actually, while I'm at it, I keep forgetting that there's this option because it looks weird. I'm going to change the font because I find that this font unreadable. That's much better. Okay, so right, here we go. You have to go into Load Samples. So there's all the sample slots, and we'll pick a slot, and I think we can hit OK and it previews it. Yep. So we got some samples. These are all built-in ones. I haven't loaded anything new into it, so let's see if we can find something that's cool. I don't imagine we're going to find anything that's particularly ambient, but yay. Oh, that was interesting. Wow, that's an old sounding thing. There's quite a lot of samples on here, actually. Okay, let's use that weird one. Where was it? This thing. Okay, sure. All right, so we've loaded some things into those sample slots. I think that's all we have to do. So if I go back to the pattern, now I have a sample loaded, sample slot 0. So I believe, yeah, the patch actually in that like tuning fork looking thing actually in this case specify for the sample track specifies the sample you're using. So what I should be able to do is press start on this, and it should just start this pattern. So look at that, it does, and it resets. The other cool thing here, by the way, is that when you stop, I believe it stops like in time. Yeah, it does. If you double stop, it stops immediately, and you have to shift stop to stop the entire sequencer all at once, which kind of gives you that ability, like in Ableton, to like launch a clip quantized and then like stop that clip or things like that, which is kind of cool. It does not necessarily mean that vector and assimilator for the discard pile. I was saying at the beginning of this, I think that I wanted to try this out against the vector and see, does it make any changes to my workflow? Do I like it more? Do I like it less? Because I think they're at similar levels in terms of how powerful they are. It's just a different paradigm. So I kind of just wanted to try that out. Yeah, as for the assimilator, no, I mean the sampling in here is much more limited than the assimilator, so that's not likely going away anytime soon for longer samples. Okay, the other thing I wanted to just see is, I think as I understand it, this should oh wait, this should reset back to part 1, I think. Oh no. I might be wrong about this. Okay, not really important. Most important thing is we can make a looping pattern, so that's good. Let's just change the volume on some of these just to show we can. So this is again in hex, so let's see. Cool. All right. Right, 200K in 8-bit, yeah. I could see it for things that are one-shot, really simple samples that I want to use, that I just like, it would be nice to have it all integrated in here and not have to patch up stuff to do it, but I don't imagine I'm gonna use it a huge amount, but I mean, we'll see. Like I said, I don't, this is the first time I've even touching this thing after reading the manual, so we're gonna see how it goes. So as I understand it too, here's the FX slot. So there's a bunch of different effects. Some of the different channel types, like the ones in the CV and the trigger expanders, have like so many different effects, which is really cool. So let's just see what we got in here to do something interesting with this. We don't really want break jump. Let's go all the way down to the bottom. So we got fine pitch, retrig, yeah, they're starting to put effects in here. I noticed that in the newest firmware that they haven't really brought out yet, there's going to be like a delay and other things like that in here, which is kind of cool. Reminds me of the, well, I don't know if it's an audio delay or not, but in some ways it reminds me of how the Pyramid does it with their sort of like MIDI-based delay or whatever. It's kind of interesting. As far as I understand, with polymetry and chords, you kind of can with the CV expander. You can have the CV expander output multiple CV values at the same time. It's just like, I don't think it doesn't appear to be as advanced as the vector in that, like, you choose the, I want a, major 7, minor 11th chord or whatever, and it'll just know how to output it out. I think you have to program them, but. Oscillators to the sample channels. That will be handy. I can see myself using that, so. Okay, so, but there's a bit crush, which is interesting. Let's, I wonder if you can change these on the fly. Let's see. Oh yeah, you sure can. Now, the other interesting thing about this being tracker based is that when you set an effect on a slot, it's not quite like the vector where there's like a per step thing. You're turning on bit crush with some value and it just stays on until it's reset to something else. So if you want to like have bit crush for one step, like so let's just add a little bit, just enough to make it sound different. Then in the next step, I actually have to go and turn it off. So that should do this now. Right? Cool, that's what I expected it to be. So far, what I've read in the manual matches up to what I see, so that's nice. That's something that I've found with some modules is sometimes you read the manual and then you go to try it and you're like, but that doesn't work because the manual talked about something that was in an old version or something that hasn't actually been developed yet. But the guy who does this NerdSEQ stuff, super active on his own forums, like he's done so much development on the firmware for this thing. It's kind of insane when you compare it with the Fluxus 1 I used to have that's been actually apparently entirely abandoned in terms of firmware development. It's nice to see. Hey Techno Bear, good to see you as well. Keyboard Ninja after a few. Well, the other cool thing that I really want to try is this. I don't know why they decided to do this, but it's such a cool thing. Is there's a gamepad connector. So you can have a Sega gamepad and control it with that. And I think that's just like, what a random thing to think about doing. But I guess it makes sense considering all like trackers come from back in those sorts of days, like in the 90s and so forth. So, I mean, makes sense. Okay, so that was bit crush. What else do we have for effects? Let's see. Like a bit crush, distortion, that's cool. Delay, and when you see things that say 2DO, that's how the guy who does this, who's Dutch, I think, says to do. He always says 2DO, so it's obviously not there yet. Backwards in sync. I wonder if that must play the sample backwards. Let's turn that on. I don't know what these settings do, but this should turn it off, so. Okay. Oh, there's only. Okay, so you can only turn backwards on and off. All right, well that makes sense. I mean, what other settings would there be? Oh, that was interesting. Oh, I guess it hadn't been reset yet. Okay, so what else we got? Offset. That must be offset, like a sample offset from the beginning. Let's see. Oh, I should, Might be wrong about that. I have to look up the manual for that one. Tables, I'm not going to get into tables yet. Well, you can't even do tables on samples anyway, it's 2D. But as far as I understand, tables are like those subsequencers that vector has, same sort of idea. Here's the probability stuff, which is cool. So probability of the thing firing in the first place. The one complaint I recall hearing about NerdSEQ that it doesn't have is that there's 2 separate probabilities for trigger and CV. So you can't, like if you have something like, for instance, the rings that will change on volt per octave change sometimes along with the strum change, you can't guarantee that the probability of the trigger and the probability of the CV value changing are both together. So you might get one or the other changing, which might not be what you want. But that's kind of cool. Let me catch up on chat here. Yeah, I saw the HDMI out expander, and I was like, that would be really, really, really useful for me streaming, to be able to have my sequencer, like this screen on the screen at all times, so you can see what I'm doing. I think that's going to be fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to that if I keep this. Let's see what else we got in here. Loading up Cuckoo's Mega Drive synth samples with this would be very suiting, I think. Yeah, and it's a ridiculous amount of I/O Technobear. I haven't even gotten into, like, I read about these, and maybe we'll get into them today. But yeah, like, you basically control a whole set of drums from the triggers, although I'm not going to use it for that. And then the CV one allows you to sort of use simultaneously these CV outs alongside these track CV outs to do polyphonic things, or, you know, there's envelopes that it can put out, there's LFOs that it can put out, like, it's crazy. Records a CV16 track can do this, up to 6 CV at a trigger gate simultaneously. There's set program to record it via MIDI. Yeah, okay, good. Doesn't build chords for you. That's exactly what I think. That's exactly the thing that I'm wondering about whether or not I'm gonna like this, is the fact that it doesn't build them for you, and my music theory is not that great. So, you know, we'll see. Yes, I could see how you would use tables for that, like the really, really, really fast arpeggiation, getting those like, yeah, the chiptune thing, exactly. Okay, so that was one thing of probability. Does it? I think it maxes out at 64, doesn't it? Oops, let's see. I don't think this first, yeah. So this is, 64 is basically probability 100, so let's just make this 32 and make sure that this makes sense. Oh, of course, I'd need to reset the probability, which I haven't done, so let's, probability here back to 100%. Although I could probably do it in the in-between step too, but this works. Yep, works like you'd expect probability to. That's good. All right, what else do we got here? Probability. Oh yeah, and then you can make weird probability chains with this, where you can have the probability that an effect is applied. So you can even have it say, like, what is the probability that we're actually going to look and see whether we're going to calculate the probability of this note applying for the 2 different FX slots. Triggers. I think this lets you specifically send, yeah. I think this lets you specifically send, yeah, it does. So I believe that what this is doing is allow the first, I want to call it octet, but that's not what it is. The first set here lets you, I think, set which of the trigger outputs from 1 to 6. We'll see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. Which of the trigger outputs from 1 to 6, and then the specific type of trigger, which is outlined in the manual, but there's a whole bunch of different types of triggers where it like repeats, or it's slightly delayed, or it's a longer gate, or it's constant on or constant off. Let's see, what else we got here? People talking about this. The manual has a section. Yes, I remember seeing that with the transpose values to get various chord qualities. So that at least will be helpful. I am kind of wondering though whether it's like whether I'm going to end up having to do, you know, write tracks all in C and then like quantize with another quantizer in places, or whether I'm just going to finally take the time and learn some damn music theory. Okay, so let's just see about this trigger thing, because I'm curious. Let's set it to a really simple trigger type first, just the trigger 1, and we'll have it come out of 1. So one interesting thing I noticed from the manual is how all of these things can play off of each other. Like if you're working with a track that's using the CV expanders, it can trigger these things, or like trigger them with probabilities by having 2 FX slots, or like one thing I don't think is that you can't use a track you can't use a track that's assigned to these to work with the CV and trigger side of things, as far as I understand. But okay, let's make this trigger something. I'm just gonna really quick off camera rearrange this and put. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll give you a little hint of what the modules are that are going to be involved in the rest of this weekend streams. Let's do this. And we're triggering Zadar, so just give me 1 minute here. I gotta set this all up off camera so I don't give the secret away. Let's see what this sounds like. Okay, so get this out of the way. Need a new something. 1 minute. Just gotta adjust. Give you a little bit of a hint, maybe. Oh, the Sinfonia is so huge. It's interesting, but it's so huge. For what it's worth, TechnoBear, the NerdSEQ, this whole thing, so the IO expander plus the NerdSEQ plus the more CV and the more triggers, this is identical HP to the Vector plus its expander, which is really nice because it all just fit right where I had everything else already. So it definitely is triggering, which is cool. Let's turn off that crazy thing unknown that I'm not going to show you till tomorrow. Okay, so that was triggers. Let's see. Modular note. So that, oh, okay, so that's influencing the CV out. So I think notes, no destination. Oh, okay, so, right, okay. So there's all the CV outs that I can do, including you can send notes out on the mod channel, which is cool. So I could even, well, I won't do that because it's not an envelope, but yeah, I can send a specific note, like, it actually says the note that I'm sending there to a specific CV output. And I believe you can also, I think if you switch to the modulation outputs, oh no, you're still sending notes, okay. Some of these things let you send like either note values or just like a scalar CV of from like 0 to some massive value, which is cool. Yeah, thanks, Jajora. Oh yes, there it is, the modular voltage. So I can send a specific voltage out on a given step. There's an unused one that he's probably going to fill later. This is some of the really cool stuff, I think, in the NerdSEQ. Like, so as a particular step in one pattern, you can cause another pattern to be triggered. Like, crazy. Select track clock. What does this do? Oh, you can change the clock on the fly. Crazy, okay. Load a sample block. So sample blocks are, one of these whole things is a sample block, so I could change the entire sample block. These are the special effects things that let you do certain... What do they let you do? So let's just see. Yeah, so like stop track end, or stop the track at the end, stop the track now, stop the song now, set the clock, reset it, pulse the clock reset, like crazy. So you could like pulse the clock reset to like reset Pam's new workout as it's running. Okay. Random jump. All right. Random jump. Let's see what this does. Let's see how this goes. Oh, of course, it can randomly jump completely outside of the pattern because it... I wonder if there's a way to random jump and say like... Oh. I don't think you... Whoops, no. Delete you. I don't think you can allow it to... I don't think you can random jump to a specific spot. Or not to a specific spot, but to something inside of your little pattern. Yeah, that's kind of what I feel like as well, TechnoBear, which is kind of why I intend on doing this. I mean, in an ideal world, what I really wanted to do was actually have fit them both in this skiff and have them side by side so I could do some more comparisons in that respect. I don't remember, but I don't think I quite have the HP to do it. And I'd also have to like move the tetrapad and the planar and all this stuff out, which limits a lot of options. So we'll see. I'm gonna give it a while of composing this way and see what I think, and then I might go back to the vector and attempt to recreate some of the stuff I did. I don't know how it's gonna work. We're gonna see. And you're right, workflow is super personal. Like, I mean, there's people who do, non-generative composition on the Renee sequencer, and I always look at the Renee as being like, I would just play around with this randomly and not understand at all how it works, and that just wouldn't be for me. So. New longer skiff, yeah, exactly, right? I'm still waiting for IntelliGel to bring out those 104 HP palette cases. That might be a thing. Okay, so what else? We can set the tempo, kill notes, and then the break. So that's the FX, and there's 2 FX slots. You can also set groove. I don't remember exactly how that works on the from the manual, but I think it's like similar to, or it's you can use it to make what's the word I'm looking for? Shuffle or that sort of thing. Okay, so I mean, enough of the samples. The samples are the really basic ones, and this is enough to know that all right, I got what I needed from the manual. So let's go back to the sequencer, and let's go full bore and just do a track that's from this the CV expander. So you have to set a specific track to that, which I believe you hit project. Yeah, and you go into track assign to do that. So we set track 1 using the shift thing to be either, here we go, more CV16. So I hit set on this. Now track's assigned. Okay. So we're gonna want a new pattern here. Good. So now this thing has pages and pages of stuff. You get 6 kind of, they're not tracks at this point, but like 6 channels, I guess, that you can use, plus 3 FX slots, and patch and table, which don't work yet, and groove. So let's see about making this do something more complicated. For this, maybe let's try using the chord. Again, I won't be able to show you what I'm patching in because I don't want to give away the other modules, but we'll use the chord in the unison mode where you can control each voice, and let's see what weirdness we can get up to here. Hi, Inverted Popes. Good to see you as well. You'd be tempted to use both together once the sequence is large enough to need 2 power sequencers. Yeah, it's true. I could see that. Okay, so this is where things get interesting. So you have to start setting something. So that's a note. So that's a note that would be sent over CV1 over here. I don't actually remember what these switches do, which is interesting. Anyway, I believe that when you're in here, there's a random value. That'll be useful at least. It won't necessarily be in key, but there's a way of setting what each one of these tracks is assigned to. I don't remember offhand how it's done. Is it track setup? Yeah. Yeah, so destinations. So I can go out to any one of the 16 CVs, or I can go out to the tracks CV, which would match up with this. Oh, this is the track CV specifically, and this is, you can choose individually any one of the 6 CVs, or the tracks mod, or choose any of the tracks mods. So that's, okay. That's good. That just says what the default on the track is, but then you can go, if I go into the pattern again, so that's sending out a note on CV1. Let's try to make a real chord. See how much I remember this. C, E, and C, E, and G would be a chord, right? So that's 1. And then I think on the FX slots is where you can do this. External CV. See if I can find a CV1. Oh, that's CV. Oh, okay. These are the track CV values. That's, I think, what I want. Yeah. Don't know what the effect thing is here, but so okay. Something about this is weird. Oh my goodness. There's so many effects. Catch up with chat here. +5 to, okay, versus 0 to 10. Okay, this makes sense. So, yeah, there's I think, okay. So I think what this, we're already putting out on CV1, so now we want to put out something on CV2. Now, does it let you do note values here, or is it all? Pretty sure it's not gonna, wait, I think there's a shift up or something like that to, or shift OK, is that what it was? Bring up the manual again. It's getting very high, okay. Let's try this again. Keep paging. Yeah, I did, and then it maxed out, so. External CVA for CV1. What I'm trying to do, by the way, is that I believe you can use the FX slots to specify also output this note on this one. things like that. But this seems to be just values, which is interesting. So see about the what's the pitch of the current track. CV1 would be this. I was pretty sure there was a way of doing this. Usually it gives you better help here too. I don't think it's going to do that for me today. Okay, let me just see what else. Because I think that there's a way to do this. Stuck with numbers in the FX columns, that would suck. Because then how do you get this to be a nice chord? Without, well, I mean, I guess you could use up another slot. Like I could always do this. I could always do like C, E, G, and that's going to be playing on one thing out of CVs 1, 2, and 3. But now you've used up a whole bunch of stuff all at once. Which, I mean, I guess it equates to the same thing in the end. So let's see if this works. Let's see if this does what I think it does. Okay, so we'll take 1, and we'll put that, ooh, okay, I'm gonna need longer cables for this. 1 second. Okay, so we'll put CV1 into chords, root. And CV2. And CV3. Again, sorry, I can't show you chord because I'll give away things, but we'll take the mix. C. Sounds like a chord to me. Sounds like a very high chord. So let's, I think you can do this to transpose. There's some way, there's some shortcut to be able to transpose everything, so. Actually, I think that it might be Mark. Nope. Not Mark. And then let's choose some different chord after that. And we gotta have this reset at some point. So let's do a really short, like 4-step pattern. So we'll have this break, break. And here we'll do a, ooh. Okay, so we definitely made some chords. That's cool. Let's see what else we got in here. It did, yeah, external notes. You can target arbitrary outputs from the FX columns. Yeah. To assign 2 and 3 in the track setup. Oh yeah, they're already they're assigned by default to 1 through 8. It's interesting because if you actually want to use all 16 in this fashion, you have to have 2 tracks that are assigned to the more CV expander. One that's on the 1 to 8 and one that's on the 9 through 16, which is interesting. If you want to do a tracks note relative to another programmed by intervals, Transposition related features, it depends a bit on how you want to work overall. Okay. Yeah, it's true. For chord, I could definitely do that, but for melodies and things like that, that's going to be harder. Let's just mute this for a moment so we're not deafening ourselves. Okay, so we've got a 3-note chord. Let's add in this what would be the 7th, and I just want to see if I can make this work where it's supposed to be able to use the track CV as well. I think that's voicing, that's the 7th, and I have to make sure the 7th is on. So I should be able to, in one of the FX slots, do this. Let's find it. CV1, yeah. So let's play with this live and just see what the hell that does. I'm actually gonna swap that. Oof. Okay, so it's doing something. I guess the handy thing here is that chord quantizes, so it doesn't matter what value I'm sending in. I'm still getting something that's actually in a, I think it's set in major key right now, maybe? I don't know. Delete this row, put it back in. How do why is this not, doesn't want to scroll fast for me. Here we go. Now it's not interested in doing anything. Odd. Okay, well that was interesting. Catch up on chat again. Huh, interesting. Both of those together with Symphonian and the NerdSEQ. Huh. Teletype has always been, I've been wondering about it because it also seems like too much like my day job, but at the same time it's like, oh, programming, cool. I like that. Okay, so that worked, but I don't think it worked with being able to do notes. Let's see what other kinds of effects we have in here since we were looking at them, and there's a whole bunch of different ones. So we got the external CVs, the external, oh, that was what I was supposed to be doing. Duh. Somebody mentioned that earlier and I totally didn't pay attention to that. That's what you want, is external note. Because now it's in note, I bet you, yes, now I get notes. So now I can say I want CV, God, I don't know, 4. Or wait, 5, it's an hex. Starts from 0, and I can give it a note. And I can unmute. What have I done to this? Oh, of course, the other thing is you need to reset this. So this gets interesting when you're talking about something that where you don't necessarily have a trigger into it, because now you need to reset the note value that's being played back to something that it was before, or it continues to be that value the whole time, which is interesting. So let's yeah, so I think this is what I was trying to get at, of how if you wanted to, you can essentially have 6, 7, 8, maybe even 9 notes of polyphony on one of these tracks. You wouldn't, I mean, I guess it would probably be more like paraphony, because you wouldn't, if you did all that, you wouldn't be able to actually get any triggers out. But you could also go to for 8 with 1 trigger, or like, I think you could probably even do 4 notes with 4 separate triggers, I would bet. Like these 4 tracks, and then 5, 6, FX1 and FX2 as triggers, and then something else with FX3. That's pretty damn powerful. I don't think I've seen a sequencer that can do that much polyphony. Not in eurorack, anyway. Yeah, I'm glad you get it. It's the day job factor. Yeah. You've been programming VSTs. What's that like? I have like absolutely zero experience in working with audio, like programming audio stuff. Do you have to know like a lot of like electronics theory or whatever? Because that was cool and super powerful. And then I believe, I don't remember how you get to this page, but you can set the glides and things like this in the mod. How do you do that again? Is it, hold on, there's a way. Yeah, so here's the crazy stuff. You can attach a modulator to a track, and they're sort of like, you can choose different envelopes or things like that, or like I think one of these is that's a trigger off voltage. I think this is, oh, here. You can choose different types, and that icon at the beginning, the caret, means it's an envelope. And then, oh, that was weird. I don't know why it said stop. That was scary. Oh yeah, and then there's certain ones that are LFOs. I think this is all in the manual. LFOs are resetting of an LFO or stopping of an LFO. Attack release, attack sustain, just release, looping, LFOs, like, and they're sort of like free running, and you turn them on and off per track. So let's just try something with this. I don't know what we're gonna patch it into, but we're gonna try. Let's get rid of this on 4 and let's use 5. It's Shift OK, by the way. That's the little shortcut to switch between different things that can be in a track. So we're gonna take track 5 and let's just put it in the level for this track, just because it's easy to hear. So this should now, as I understand it, output an envelope with a certain amount of attack. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so let's just see, because if I'm right, this should have some effect on the volume here. Oh, look at that. Who needs a ZR? No, the envelopes are nowhere near as complex. Now, I gotta remember how you get in to modify these things. Oh yeah, you can hit OK to trigger a note, or trigger a thing, by the way, in this case the modulator. So how is it that you get in there again? Oh, that was not it. That's not what I wanted. You must remember, Dirty. How is it again that you get into editing the modulation stuff on the right-hand side? This is where the sort of first attempt at looking at things sort of falls apart. Is like, there's a lot you can get out of the manual, but some of the more advanced stuff and the keyboard shortcuts and stuff like that, I don't entirely remember, because there's a lot of information to absorb. VST programming needs some DSP knowledge, graphics coding. Just takes a lot of time. Yes, 150,000% TechnoBear. There is a slot. I can show you this. This slot is where it's going. When they finally start selling it internationally again, the ER301 is going here. And then I have to have this whole debate again, I think. Like I'm doing right now with the NerdSEQ and Vector, it's going to be ER301 or Oscillator, I think. You always forget. All right, let me. Oh, it's gonna take too long to pull up the manual. Let's just try some things. No, that would be changing values. Up and down just goes. Shift up and down doesn't do anything. Shift OK changes. Not OK. There's this icon, by the way, that means that like the thing has been triggered. And in LFOs, it seems to mean that like the LFO is free running, which is really weird. But okay, no, we're not going to get into tables yet. We won't be recording anything, so it can't have been that. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Okay. So you press patch when you're on one of these values, and then it moves you over here. So you could set glide speed, glide steps. The modulator add pure, as far as I understand from some videos, is pretty cool because you can set a modulator on a track and have it just add to the values that the track is already sending out if you do it as an effect or something like that. So you can have an LFO, you can like create vibrato effects or things like that by having a fast running LFO, and that's all inside of the NerdSEQ. So let's, does OK trigger it now? No. Okay, so let's try making this a longer attack. See, and you can see the graphic changes, which is nice, and like a longer release. And sure, the sustain can stay where it is. Yeah, so look, different envelope. So it feels to me like I'm going to end up using, for simple things, I may end up using the NerdSEQ's envelopes out and then like repurposing the trigger slots for to trigger other things, like to trigger Zadar or whatever else. Like, so that's cool. That's an envelope. So let's see what it sounds like. And of course, that's only triggering once. So let's copy it. Copy. Is it shift play? No. Shift copy again? No. That copies. How the hell do you paste again? Nope. Let's just do it this way. And you can't have different, it's like you've set the value for this one particular envelope, so it will stay the way it is. Now the other thing is I could have done this via effects, I think. So if we look at this slot, for instance, I think that there is an effect that says start modulator. Yeah. There's a set of modulators. And it says where it goes out to and the different types. So there's, oh yeah, totally. Okay, so instead of doing what we did, let's delete these. And it was on steps 1 or 0 and 2. So on this second FX slot, let's do this. Delete this. On the second FX slot, we'll start modulator A. We'll say it's on CV5. And we want the AR envelope, which is I think what we chose. And then the same thing on step 2, like that. And that should, I think, do the same thing. Maybe not. Maybe not. Nope. Let's see what else we got. You guys all talking about Mark to copy, copy to paste. Okay, yeah. Okay. I guess it's a way to reuse the buttons. Wonder why this isn't doing what I want. I got CV5. Oh, because it's CV4. Helps if I hook it up right. CV4, CV4. Now, no. CV4. Oh no, I was wrong. It was CV5. That's what I thought this was supposed to do, was then, oh, no, AR envelope, AS envelope. Let's just choose a different envelope, see if that does anything. No, okay. Set envelope. Maybe this is something that needs to be. Oh, this is setting the values for an envelope, okay. But I mean, I don't think we need to do that. May have to look up the manual again for this. This is getting into the really advanced stuff, I think, by the way. So I'm glad I even got this far from just looking at the manual. So, all right, let's stop messing around with FX. Let's go back to the sequencer. And by the way, now I can like play a whole row at once if I wanted to, by the way, by doing shift play, and that's a whole row. Can't hear it because the samples aren't hooked up, but let's assign another track before I have to go here. That's not what I want. I want project track assign, and let's try the trigger guy. There's trigger 16 on track 2. Sure, yeah, on track 2. Okay, so we need a new pattern, and we can go into the pattern. So now I got 8 triggers and 3 FX slots, and then you can also look at it in a drum matrix view to do like Euclidean patterns and stuff like that. I don't remember the key sequence, but there is somewhere to have it insert Euclidean stuff. I think it's, no. Patch isn't a thing yet. And so with these triggers, you can also, I believe, there's, yeah, you can still send CV on these tracks. I don't think you can make the CV and the trigger expander talk to each other, unfortunately, but I mean, still, all this on one track is kind of nice. And so then there's different, this is where there's all these different types of triggers. I guess it doesn't show, but they're, yeah. Okay. Let's do one more thing before I have to go, which is let's try tables because I'm curious about how this works. So we're gonna go track 3, and track 3 isn't assigned to either of these, it's just on these local outputs. So we'll do another pattern here. And let's just start off with a C, and let's see if we can make this do that arpeggiation thing that we were talking about. So I'm going to rearrange some of these things, and we'll send it through different oscillator of some kind here. So our CV out, let's just use rings. Let's use rings. Full per octave. Can mute that. We can go, the trigger out can just be strum. Oh, I'm gonna need a longer one. Trigger out as strum. That should be really all we need. And take some sound out. Let's see if we can make this tables thing do what I want here. So, I don't know, 4 steps, sure. So we'll make it break, and channel 2's got sound. Why is our trigger not triggering? Oh, I think you have to set a trigger. Delayed gate 5 milliseconds. Let's just see. Nope. Let's see what you all have to say. The vector song mode play a pattern from one track on a different track. I don't think it can, as I recall. I think the patterns, like the parts are, you'd have to go in and change, because the parts are linked to outputs, so you'd have to change the output of the part to change where that's going, which, as I understand it, is something you can do with a NerdSEQ, right? You can have the same pattern play on multiple different tracks and be output to different things. And I guess then transpose them, which would kind of be cool. All right, so what am I doing wrong here? I should be getting a note out. Maybe I'm just, let's see. I have the auto gate thing set on, so it's supposed to be creating a gate automatically every time this goes. So that's weird that it's not. A 20 millisecond trigger, how about that? Still not going to give me anything? Why? Yeah, that is something I will definitely try. I love that the most basic thing that I've tried is actually the one that's suddenly not working for some reason. Why? What does Rings want? It's upset about something, apparently. Let's try another oscillator. Well, it can't be that upset, it just strummed. Okay, what else has a built-in VCA? Plates. So CV and trigger and out. Interesting. Is it not sending like enough of a trigger signal or something? Or wait, don't I have another, hold on a second. I think I have another track that was influencing those, so let's make sure we delete all the other samples from playing, just to be sure. No, and you can see in this screen, on the sequencer screen, that it is sending a trigger with a value of C0. Oh, on 3. Ha ha ha. That should be it now, let's see. Oh. Yeah, my Platts is tuned very, very low. Let's turn the volume down because holy cow. It's a little much. Okay. Just gonna adjust the VCA on Platts here real quick. Get something more interesting. Okay, a little more interesting. So, finally, and I think I should be able to delete this trigger row. Yeah, and there's still a trigger inserted automatically, so that's good. All right, what else we got? Just patching the oscillator so it rings out. Yeah, possibly. Let's see. I want to try it. I want to try it in hard mode first. Let's see. Okay, so we should be able to to create a new table, I think. No, maybe I have to. Okay, I have to choose one. So now I should be able to go into the table, which is supposed to be a sub sequencer. And it's really weird because there's this hop thing that says like where do you go? So like hop back to 0, I guess. And then Source internal text speed 0, 1 and loop is restart. I don't remember what TP is, but you can hear it. Transpose, that would be transpose, duh, of course. So, all right, so we want this transpose to do a chord, so maybe not here. We probably want it like so. So plus up what, 1, 2, 3. Wait, what am I doing? C. 2, 3, 4. So up like 3 and or is it 5 and 7? I don't remember. And then like 12, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's sort of doing what I want. And then this should be going back. Right, okay. That's the right idea. Speed. Look at that. Now, of course, it's not re-triggering, I don't think, in here. You can hear the VCA fading out as it changes CV values. So, can we make it trigger? Let's see. Glide. Oh, there's no help on these. This is going to be... That seems like it's right. Okay. Oops, that must be one of those ratcheting triggers. Oh, it's already an interesting effect from that. So then, of course, I could also, like... I think I can set the same table, right? Or is there a... Yeah, okay, there's a clear table, so I can have one note with the table, one note without, and then I could add the table back in. At any point, that table is basically an automatic arpeggiation in major, right? That's really cool, to be able to reuse that and just like insert it in places. That's really cool. Consider a nicely programmed art pattern. Now it's playing under your high octave art voice. Later on, it's playing in your lead voice. Maybe later still it's running half that. Yeah. So does that mean you can influence the, can you use effects slots to change table values? Or I guess you probably have to make a copy of it that's a table at half speed or something like that. Oh, no. God, don't do that. I want to see. Oh, there's not even a probability of applying the table, which is cool. I haven't even gotten to automators because those are patch. Choose a different table. Oh, I made it stop the track. Whoops. Bass note, kill note. Yeah, no. Nothing in there that I see, but that would be interesting. Reuse of patterns across tracks. Yeah, that makes sense. Although again, even if you reused a pattern across a track, you can't. You'd have to clone that pattern into a new one that runs at half clock rate, wouldn't you? You couldn't have it reuse the same pattern but have an FX thing or whatever that. Well, I guess you can't because at that point it's at the sequencer screen, right? You can't apply effects at this point. I'm so far, I gotta say, impressions from having actually used this rather than just the manual. Yeah, complicated, but I can see how ridiculously powerful this could be, like almost overwhelmingly so in terms of how many things you could manage to do with this. And it feels a lot like, especially looking at the way things are outlined in here. I mean, I didn't even go into the fact that pattern chaining and things like that, and you can like recolor things and stuff like that, or like launch an individual clip. Feels like it's going to be really interesting, and at least when I'm using it, make me change how I work, because with vector I was very much about like generate something until I find something cool and then tweak it with probability. But this might be a lot more purposeful, I guess. Like coming up with something that actually sounds good from scratch and then making modifications to it, adding in the probability steps and stuff like that. So it's going to be very different. So far I'm impressed. I don't know whether I'm going to like it, but that will remain to be seen the rest of this weekend, I think. Yeah, no, that's what I thought. Use FX to adjust the track clock, or you can do it interactively. So if you didn't want to do it interactively, modify the track clock from within a pattern that plays just before the one you reuse. Oh, okay. So you'd actually have, like, in your sequence, a chained pattern whose pattern exists just to change the tempo, and then the following, this like of length 1 or something like that, and then a following pattern that's the original one you're using, but now the tempo has been like globally changed. Interesting. A QWERTY keyboard would be interesting on this, because then I guess you could name things and whatnot. So we're still running. It's another thing I have to get used to, is this whole like more Ableton-like running thing, where it kind of is always, if you launch something, it's running a lot longer than you. Like it's still running now, although I've stopped the sequencer itself is running, but that particular pattern isn't running. And this is actually, yeah, I can show you this from here. So if we start this, the whole sequencer is running. If I stop it, I've stopped that pattern. But then when you hit start, it actually by default waits until the sequencer resets and starts at quantize. I can't remember, but there is a way of setting it to be quantized to like a bar or other things like that if you want. I think it's... And if you hit stop, similarly, it stops quantize. If you hit double start, I think it starts immediately. No. There is a way to set this quantization, which I thought was cool, because I like the idea of being able to have like isolated tracks or isolated different things where the pattern, like, so if I'm on track 6, I might have track 6 playing one part, and then later on I could switch to another pattern that is on track 6, but it's actually talking out through the more CV expander or something like that. So the whole thing could be on more CV, originally talking out through these outputs, and then when you're not using that voice anymore, you can reuse the track to play something else out through another set of CV outs. Like, crazy. I need a dedicated hardware video switcher. Well, you know, I actually figured it out. All the cameras are in 1080p now. I just had to find the right combination of USB ports. So that is actually all good now, thank goodness. Okay, everybody. I didn't have a huge amount of time to stream today, so I gotta get going, but I wanted to do this intro. You might have seen in the message on YouTube, I'll be streaming for a while on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, where I'm gonna sort of do an EP from scratch kind of thing. The NerdSEQ will be heavily involved because I want to see start to finish, how do I find this? And then, like I said, I got a couple of other new modules to use in the mix that you might be interested in hearing some of. So yeah, stop by. That's tomorrow and Monday and Tuesday at 7 UTC or 1 Mountain Time. Thanks, Dirty. Yeah. I'm kind of surprised at how easily I was able to get into this, having really only watched videos and read the manual. It wasn't as bad as I was kind of worried it might be. So, so yeah. All right, everybody, have a good one. I hope to see some of you all tomorrow. And yeah, thanks for dropping by.